Okay, let's begin. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to session number 259 of Kevin Reed's A Course in Miracles. Today we are in the Manual for Teachers, focusing on question number 10. How is judgment relinquished? So we begin. Paragraph 1. Judgment, like other devices by which the world of illusions is maintained, is totally misunderstood by the world. It is actually confused with wisdom and substitutes for truth. As the world uses the term, an individual is capable of good and bad judgment, and his education aims at strengthening the former and minimizing the latter. There is, however, considerable confusion about what these categories mean. What is good judgment to one is bad judgment to another. Further, even the same person classifies the same action as showing good judgment at one time and bad judgment at another. Nor could any consistent criteria for determining what these categories are be really taught. At any time, the student may disagree with what his would-be teacher says about them, and the teacher himself may well be inconsistent in what he believes. Good judgment, in these terms, does not mean anything. No more does bad. Okay. So this judgment is a device to keep the world of illusions going. It's a tool to prove separation, differences. We're all, there's so many differences. Right? And if you're different from me, you're separate from me. I don't have the same things that you have. I don't look the same. I don't sound the same. We're not the same age. Right? We don't live in the same country. We don't have the same accent. Right? Although I don't have an accent. All right? So the judgment, saying you're different than me, that's the basic judgment, right? It keeps the world of illusions going. It's the first thing we did. We said, wait, I'm not one with God. I'm not the same. I'm not the same. I and the Father are one. That's not me. There was a judgment. There's me and there's you, God. That's it. And we rolled out the carpet of time, the great illusion, the grand facade, right? So judgment is a device that keeps the world of illusions maintained, right? And it's confused with wisdom. Oh, he has good judgment, this guy. This woman has very, very good judgment. And we think that's wisdom. And we think that they have a grasp on the truth. Right? As the world uses the term, an individual is capable of good and bad judgment. Right? And then he says, and the education aims to improve your good judgment and minimize your bad judgment. I had 16 years of Catholic education, and believe me, I don't know if my judgment was all that improved. All right? So there is, however, considerable confusion about these categories mean. What's good judgment to one is bad judgment to another. What keeps coming up for me as I read this is in the text, when we talk about the laws of chaos, Jesus talks about the laws of chaos. Right? And I believe it's the first law of chaos is that the truth is different for everyone. All right? So what's good judgment to me is bad judgment to you. Everything is subjective. Everything is relative. All right? So it becomes, we have a chaotic world. And that's what the world of the ego is. It's chaos. Right? And it's meant to maintain the separation. Okay? So what's seen as good judgment by one is bad judgment at another time. Right? So even though you may think my judgment is bad, there are even times when I'll do the same thing and, well, this time that didn't work out, So even in an individual sense, just look down the avenue, see how many cars are coming, right? Oh, I can make it across the street, right? That's good judgment. I made it. I shortened up my trip. And, the next day, same circumstances. I start to cross the street, and I didn't plan on having this guy pull out from a parking spot as if he was pulling away from a bank robbery, and now I have to get on my horse, as they say, and run. So that was poor judgment on my part. That's why these days I remind myself, wait for the sign that says walk, okay? But anyway, just an example, we're judging everything every day. We have good judgment, bad judgment. Right? Further, even the same person classifies the same action as showing good judgment at one time and bad judgment at the other. Nor can any consistent criteria for determining what these categories are be really taught. Right? So there's no really firm foundation that you can draw on. There's no well that you can go to and draw on and say, oh yes, this will bring good judgment for me. Because the circumstances are always changing. Right? So there's no consistent criteria for good judgment. Right? In this illusion, as we speak. At any time, the student may disagree with what his would-be teacher says about them. And the teacher himself may well be inconsistent in what he believes. Good judgment, in these terms, does not mean anything. No more does bad. In this world, there's no consistent criteria. Even though you may base your judgment on something, sooner or later something will come along to make you think about that. Oh, maybe that wasn't such a good thing to do, So, and when I read these last couple of sentences, it brings me back to, I believe it's, one of the first exercises in the workbook for students, the workbook containing 365 exercises to be done one each day. Jesus says, don't try to do 2 a day, really. And you look around and you tell yourself, nothing I see in this room, on the street, anyway, nothing has meaning. Doesn't have any meaning. All right? And this is what this makes me think of. Good judgment does not mean anything. No more does bad. When there's this inconsistency. So, paragraph 2. It is necessary for the teacher of God to realize, not that he should not judge, but that he cannot. In giving up judgment, He is merely giving up what he did not have. He gives up the illusion, or better, he has an illusion of giving up. He has actually merely become more honest, recognizing that judgment was always impossible for him. He no longer attempts it. This is no sacrifice. On the contrary, he puts himself in a position where judgment through him rather than by him can occur. And this judgment is neither good nor bad. It is the only judgment there is, and it is only one. God's Son is guiltless, and sin does not exist. That is the consistent criteria for all judgment. Right? And we go to the Holy Spirit and we ask, help me to see correctly. And the judgment will arise in a form that fits our situation. God's Son is guiltless, and separation from God does not exist. And if we can begin to see the world through that realization, judgment is different. Perspective is different. Right? There is no more judgment. There's only the case of someone is calling for love they think is missing, or they're extending love because they're innocent, but they believe their innocence is missing. Right? Or they realize the oneness and they're extending the love. Right? Somehow they've connected to the oneness. And this course is not the only way to connect to the oneness. Right? Your intention is the most powerful thing. What is it that you want? I truly want the absolute truth to arise in my awareness. That's the desire. And the path will appear for you. You're already on a path. And if you need specifics, something specific will come up for you. All right? And it will be a path that will exclude judgments. Right? There's many so-called spiritualities and religions that are, they're based in judgment. They're just based in judgment. Sooner or later, you'll see what judgment does. You'll see the effect of it. We'll get to that, I think, in the next paragraph. All right? So he says it's necessary for the teacher of God to realize, right? Not that he should not judge, but he can't judge. Right? We don't have the wherewithal. We don't have all the realizations that it takes to make the judgment yet. All right? And the only judgment there is that God's Son is guiltless and separation does not exist. Sin does not exist. All right? So we must realize that we can't go judging people. Right? And he gives up the illusion. All right? Or better yet, he has an illusion of giving up something. All right. I'm giving up judgment. That's an illusion too. You have the illusion of giving up something. You never had the power. He gives up an illusion, or better, he gives up an illusion of giving up. He has actually merely become more honest, realizing that I don't know. I really don't know. You know, somebody once said that after all the education that people get, it just usually comes down to it's a 50-50 situation. It just helps you guess better. So the bottom line is I'm really not sure. I don't know everything about this person, right? Somebody's complaining that look, they left the wash in this machine overnight. Isn't that terrible? I hate when that happens. They take up space. You know, don't they realize the rest of us have to have room to do our laundry? And so they're making a judgment about the person that left the laundry in the laundry machine. As for those of you that have like communal laundry rooms, all right? I mean, there's other things too. Somebody left the dishes in a sink, you know. I mean, there's billions of things to judge, but take that one about the laundry. So the person is making a judgment about the person that did that. They're terrible. They're thoughtless. They don't think about others. They're selfish. They have no idea what is going on with this person. Maybe all of a sudden they had to take care of a loved one, right? Maybe they ran to the store and they tripped and fell or something. Now, you don't know. For some reason, they couldn't get back on time to get the laundry. You know? And oh, by the way, there's other machines. Right? I mean, it's just a seemingly trivial thing, but check yourself out. We judge all day long. And here Jesus says, you know, you cannot judge. Well, he's saying you cannot judge correctly. All right? Because in the text, he'll say when you're in the ego thought system, when you are truly just swimming in that thought of separation, he says you can't help yourself. You're judging everybody. So when we believe that we're separate, we're automatically judging everything. Everything. Right? And he says, but you really can't because you don't have the wherewithal. You don't have the knowledge that is in your right mind, where the symbols of Jesus and Holy Spirit are. The Holy Spirit, the memory of who you are, came with you into the dream. Excuse me. My throat is dry. That memory of your connection to the oneness came with you. The memory of your innocence came with you. And this is what he's going to tell us. Tap into that. He's always telling us, tap into that. Right? Otherwise, you don't know what you're talking about. Because you don't have the whole story. You just don't. You don't know the person's past, present, or future. Right? You don't know, you know, as they used to say in Brooklyn, you don't know nothing. You just don't know. He gives up an illusion of knowing. All right. Or better yet, he has the illusion of giving it up. He gives up an illusion. He has actually merely become more honest. And I'm becoming more honest when I say, well, actually, how do I know? What do I know? You know? I mean, you have to go left or go right, so to speak. You know, but contact your right mind very quickly before that. That's all. Help me to see correctly, please. Help me to be peaceful. And then make a choice. All right. He's merely becoming more honest, recognizing that judgment was always impossible for him. He no longer attempts it. And this is no sacrifice. On the contrary, he puts himself in a position where judgment through him, rather than by him, can occur. And this judgment is neither good nor bad. It is the only judgment there is. and it is only one. God's Son is guiltless, and sin does not exist. All right, so I put myself in a position, all right, to have judgment come through me. Same thing all the time. I go to my right mind where my guides are, if you want to use that word, all right, my teacher, my true self, all right, the memory of who I am. And I ask, help me to see correctly. Help me to correct my perception. I don't want to see through the eyes of the ego. All right? And it doesn't have to be long-winded like that. As Dr. Wapnick would always say, well, can you say help? All right? The Holy Spirit knows the prayer of your heart, as the text says. All right? And this way you're allowing judgment to come through you. And the judgment is always some form of innocence. Right? No separation. Right? And it will fit the situation in which you find yourself. And the more you do it, the more you'll recognize it and the more you'll want to do it. Okay? Paragraph 3. The aim of our curriculum, unlike the goal of the world's learning, is the recognition that judgment in the usual sense is impossible. This is not an opinion, but a fact. In order to judge anything rightly, one would have to be fully aware of inconceivably wide range of things, past, present, and to come. One would have to recognize in advance all the effects of his judgments on everyone and everything involved in them in any way. And one would have to be certain there is no distortion in his perception, so that his judgment would be wholly fair to everyone on whom it rests now and in the future. Who is in a position to do this? Who, except in grandiose fantasies, would claim this for himself? Okay? I'm the one that can fix this. I'm the one that knows what to do. All right? Who, except in grandiose fantasies, would claim this for himself? All right? In order to judge anything rightly, one would have to be fully aware of an inconceivably wide range of things. Past, present, and future, how it's going to affect everyone and everything involved in the decision. Right? How are you going to be wholly fair to everyone on whom it rests now and in the future? Who's in a position to do this? Who, except in grandiose fantasies, would claim this for himself? So he's telling us that the aim of the course is to show us, right, that judgment in the usual sense is impossible. It's telling us that this course is telling us to go to the Holy Spirit, go to Jesus, right? And all those, that's what the terms the course uses. And so you go there and you ask for your perception to be corrected. And then you go about your business. You make a decision. Okay? But the goal of the course is to show you that the ego only leads to chaos. Only leads to more reinforcement of the idea of separation and separate interests and I got to get mine before you get it. All that stuff, that competitive world. And he says, judgment in the usual sense is impossible. And then he says, this is not an opinion. This is a fact. So don't even try to argue with me on it. All right. Then he goes on to, in paragraph 4, to just reinforce the argument. Remember how many times you thought you knew all the facts you needed for judgment and how wrong you were. Is there anyone who has not had this experience? Would you know how many times you merely thought you were right without ever realizing you were wrong? Why would you choose such an arbitrary basis for decision making? Wisdom is not judgment. It is the relinquishment of judgment. Make then but one more judgment. It is this. There is someone with you whose judgment is perfect. He does know all the facts, past, present, and to come. He does know all the effects of his judgment on everyone and everything involved in any way. He is wholly fair to everyone, for there is no distortion in his perception. All right. He says, wisdom is not judgment. Wisdom is the relinquishment of judgment and going to the right mind, as we say in the Course. Right? And you go to the right mind just by wanting to communicate with the truth. I want to sit in the presence of truth. Right? And you don't even need words. Right? It's that desire for the connection to truth. Right? And so he's describing the Holy Spirit, right? And the embodiment of the Holy Spirit in Jesus. Right? There's one more judgment to make. That there is someone with you. There's someone with you whose judgment is perfect. Right? He knows all the facts, past, present, and to come. He does know all the effects of his judgment on everyone and everything involved in any way. And he is wholly fair to everyone, for there is no distortion in his perception. Holy Spirit sees only the oneness, but realizes our plight within the thought of separation. He's fair to everyone. Right? When I say, help me to see peace, it includes everyone. Because there is no separation. Okay. And he is always there. There's no secret handshake or secret knock. It's just the desire to connect with truth. I want the truth to arise in my mind. Because we've noticed, right? We've noticed what our judgment has wrought, right? All the effects of our judgments. Right? The main judgment being that I'm different from God. I'm separate. I'm an individual. Right? Look what that judgment has brought to me. So remember how many times you thought you knew the facts. and how wrong you were. Is there anyone who has not had this experience? Sometimes the memories, I guess, of those times when I thought I knew all the facts. I could be anywhere. I could be sleeping. I could be walking around, and all of a sudden that memory pops up, and it's just, oh, you know. Sometimes I will even be embarrassed, right? I'll be all flushed and everything. It's so strange. All right. Remember how many times you thought you knew the facts. All right. Wisdom is not judgment. It is the relinquishment of judgment. Right. Make then but one more judgment. It is this: there is someone, capital S, with you whose judgment is perfect. It's the reliance on the Holy Spirit, our inner guide, our teacher. Right. Paragraph 5. Therefore, lay judgment down, not with regret, but with a sigh of gratitude. Now are you free of a burden so great that you could merely stagger and fall down beneath it. And it was all illusion, nothing more. Now can the teacher of God rise up unburdened and walk lightly on. Yet it is not only this that is his benefit. His sense of care is gone, for he has none. He has given it away, along with judgment. He gave himself to him whose judgment he has now chosen to trust, instead of his own. Now he makes no mistakes. His guide is sure. And where he came to judge, he comes to bless. Where now he laughs, he used to come to weep. Okay. Jesus is describing our transition, so to speak, our movement up the ladder, as we say, right? As we become more and more desirous of the truth, we become less reluctant to go to the right mind. Right? We're not afraid of the truth anymore. We want it. We see that we're just lighter. We're not burdened. We become less and less burdened by the nonsense of the world. Okay? Because there's no distortion in the perception of the Holy Spirit. I remember being in Roscoe, and Dr. Wapnick's wife, Gloria, was conducting one of the classes because it was a big enrollment for this. I think it might have been a 2-week seminar, and she was reading a passage, and that very short sentence in the course. I forget where it is. It could be in the exercises. But the sentence is, there is no world. There is no world. And to paraphrase, this is what the Course has come to teach. And Gloria Wapnick would stop, and in her inimitable fashion, she was a teacher in the Bronx for a long time, and she would take off her glasses and just go, "How does that make you feel?" And she's looking right at me. She points her glass frames at me. "How does that make you feel?" And I said to her, "It's a relief. It's a relief. And I think she was kind of taken back by that, because this is what Jesus is saying. I mean, not that I'm putting any medals on myself, but sometimes, you get a little intuitive. You realize what she's asking, what it's saying. It's not that you're going to die, not that you're going to go poof. It's just that when you get to that point, when you realize what it's all about, there's a relief. It's a relief. I don't have to be judging things. I don't have to watch out. Well, watch out. I just go to my teacher in my mind and say, help me to see this. And in another part in the text, Jesus says, you have no idea of the great relief that you will feel when you lay down judgment. Okay? You're unburdened. You're reliant on that Holy Spirit, that memory of who you are, that always gives you the message, God's Son is guiltless. You're not separated from God. And it takes the form of whatever situation you're in. And we keep practicing that. And that's the growth. That's the transition. Right? Now can the teacher of God rise up unburdened and walk lightly on. Yet it is not only this that is his benefit. Right? His sense of care is gone. Right? Not that you don't help people that need help. Not that you're cold and withdrawn and aloof. That's not it. Right? That sense of urgency and defensiveness is gone. Right? He has given up. You've given away the caring for the nonsense of the world. Right? Not that you're, as I say, you're not being cold. Right? You're being very loving and kind, right? Without attachment to outcomes. Right? He has given it away along with judgment. He gave himself to him whose judgment he has now chosen to trust. He has chosen now to trust. So I've given myself over to the Holy Spirit, to Jesus, to the ones who know what's going on. His guide is sure. And where he came to judge, he comes to bless. And it's all going on in your mind. Where now he laughs, he used to come to weep. And this is not, we're not, take this metaphorically. You're not going around laughing at stuff. It's just, you're not weeping over the plight. Oh my God. You can smile because you know the truth. You're getting closer to the truth. Or you have reached the truth as the teacher of God, the advanced teacher. We're working toward that. All right. Remember, the word advance means to come toward, to come to. We're coming to the truth. It is not difficult, paragraph 6. It is not difficult to relinquish judgment, but it is difficult indeed to try to keep it. The teacher of God lays it down happily the instant he recognizes its cost. All of the ugliness he sees about him is its outcome. All of the pain he looks upon is its result. All of the loneliness and sense of loss, of passing time and growing hopelessness, of sickening despair and fear of death, all these have come of it. And now he knows that these things need not be. Not one is true. For he has given up their cause, and they, which never were but the effects of his mistaken choice, have fallen from him. Teacher of God, this step will bring you peace. Can it be difficult to want but this? Is it difficult to want peace? All right. So it's not difficult to relinquish judgment when you see its effects, when you realize the effects of it. We can realize the effects of the original judgment. I'm separated from God. All right? This world is the effect of that. All right? It's difficult to try to maintain it, to keep this, as if this is real. This is what's real. The horrible ways that people treat one another. The horrible things they do to one another. All right? I mean, it's been going on since the beginning of time. But somebody asked me, they said, don't you think the world's getting worse? I said, well, in my opinion, nothing changes but technology. I said, people have always been doing this to one another. It's just that, 2,000 years ago, they didn't have iPhones. They didn't have the internet. You don't see things immediately. There's nobody standing there recording the atrocity and putting it up on some form of media. All right. So, 2,000 years ago, even, more, let's just leave 2,000 years because it's an arbitrary number, people were killing one another, committing atrocities on one another, enslaving one another, doing all manner of things to one another. But you wouldn't know it unless you studied history or something. And if you study history, you might just think, they were horrible. And you don't realize it. Well, they're doing the same things today. They're doing the same things today. And that's the result of believing in the separation, the original judgment. And then we go on judging. This one's right, this one's wrong, this one's horrible, this one's a sinner, this one's good. Instead of asking the Holy Spirit, who knows everything about everything, help me to see correctly. I want to reach peace. Right? Jesus says, is it difficult to want that? I just remembered, this is going back, 30 years. I used to listen to a certain radio station, listener-sponsored radio, and they'd have certain programs on, and there's a person describing an incident in their town. And she said, then all of a sudden, it was people that I thought were my neighbors came rushing into my house and started beating my family and throwing us out of the house. And the beatings continued. And I'm just waking up because this was my alarm. The alarm clock radio went on. And I'm thinking, where is this? And I'm thinking it's some place, right? And it was, she's describing something that she had witnessed in her country, which was, I never would have thought Oh, it was not my first thought, you know. And here we are 30 years later, and people describing the same things. And the horror is magnified through the technology. So it's the way the world is. And he tries to give it words, you know. The teacher of God lays down happily the instant he realizes the cost of the judgment that I'm separated from the oneness. The ugliness, all the ugliness he sees about him is the outcome. That's the outcome of maintaining the thought that I'm separated from God. All the pain, all the loneliness, the sense of loss, the passing of time, growing hopelessness, despair, fear of death, all these have come as a result. Right? Sickening despair and fear of death, all of these have come of it. And now he knows it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. For he has given up their cause. Right, I've given up the cause of these things, which is the belief in separation, that original judgment. Right, then I judge everybody's being separate from me, and it goes on, it rolls out from there. And now he knows that these things need not be. Not one is true, for he has given up their cause. I've given up the cause, the belief in separation. And I do that by just going to my right mind and saying, help me to see correctly. In that instant, I've given up the cause. I no longer want to see the separation. So he's given up the cause, and they, which never were but the effects of his mistaken choice, have fallen from him. So all of these things that I witness in the world about me and in my personal life, and you know, your family, your town, your county, your state, your city, your country, it just goes on and on. They're all the results of a mistaken choice. And I can see all these things correctly if I make the other choice. All the horrors I see are the choice, result of the choice to believe I'm separated from the oneness. Right? And coming back to the oneness is a practice. Right? Don't beat yourself up for making mistakes. Okay? Just realize the mistake. Oh yeah, that was a mistake. And come back to the right mind. Be gentle with yourself too, okay? Really. It's your desire for peace, the peace that passes all understanding. It's your desire for truth that will bring you there. Trust that. All right? For he has given up their cause. Teacher of God, this step will bring you peace. Can it be difficult to want but this? And he guarantees you keep practicing, you keep reinforcing that desire. Help me to see peace. Help me to see correctly. Help me to see through the eyes of non-separation. Can it be difficult to want but this and only this? That's the but. He uses buts all the time. Alrighty then. We practice giving up judgment. All right? Everything's practice. As the Taoist teacher once said, everything theory until practice. Okay, practice. See you later.